Hello everyone, I hope you're well. I hope you're warm enough in this hot weather. So I've come upstairs and I thought I would create a little ticketed snippet. So they're nice little small pieces of art and they are nice and simple to create. So I've got my little pink pig little journal that I put them in. As you can see, we've got them here. We've got my ticketed snippets there. So I've done the first two. So, and I've loved those. Now it's really warm upstairs because I've left my fan with my little dog, who for the first time in 3 days is all settled and relaxed because the fan's blowing on it. So I'm boiling. So I've bought myself a nice drink of water. I promise you it's water with the biggest ice cube ever. So I'm going to have a sip of that. And that's lovely and cold. So I thought we'd create a ticketed snippet. So what I love about these is I can use a scrap piece of card, so it works perfectly. But I just wanted to show you, first of all, I wanted to say thank you to everybody that sent me a ticketed snippet for Mary. We've got a challenge on in my group, which is on Facebook. And in the group, we're doing a challenge. And in the challenge, we're creating a little ticketed snippet and we're adding purple to that. But the lovely Petra sent one for me. And look at that, isn't that gorgeous with the sunflower and the little bird? How wonderful is that? There's some little white embossing here as well. It's gorgeous. And look what Petra put on. Oh, that's just so lovely. I think that's so kind. So I've got that put up now, just in on my little shelf here. And I'll just look at that. I think it's lovely. And eventually I'll add it to my little book, I think. So if I keep reaching for a drink, you know why. Because it's not hot up here. It's absolutely melting. Anyway, let's create a ticketed snippet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take TE45, and it's got a lovely little text stamp on there. Can you see that it's just fallen off there? A lovely text stamp. It's already been used so many times, so it probably needs a little bit of a wipe. In fact, my wipes are no longer wet, they're dry. So let's give that a little bit of a wipe. And you can see I've put a little arrow there with a permanent marker so I can see which way up that goes. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stamp this in the background. So let's just stamp this in the background. I'm using my Versamark. I've got Versamark in my shop, so I'm just using the Versamark. I can't see a thing there, so what it's best to do is just sprinkle some embossing powder just so that we can see. I normally use my Wow powder because there's hardly any in this, and what is left has got more bits of everything else rather than the embossing powder, but there you go. So we'll just stamp that again. So I'm taking the text again. It's a little bit small, the text from TE45, which is Dog Rose. No, it isn't. Oh, do you know? The heat's getting to me. Nature Feeds the Soul, TE48. No, what am I doing here? Where have I just... Oh, good grief. I told you the heat was getting to me. It is TE45, Dog Rose and Butterfly. The text stamp here. Poor soul. So take that text stamp. I'm going to add a little bit more text just below there. And then I don't think I need to put this back in the pot. I've not got much embossing powder. I should have pulled my Wow one out. Waste not, want not, what, whatever they say. So a little bit more. There's black bits in this and everything, but I'm not going to waste it, even that tiny bit. So again, I'm going to stamp for a third time. And I'm just stamping it going down, not necessarily all lined up. I'm just stamping it going downwards on the page. So I'm not sort of lining everything up. That's purposeful. So I've stamped it 3 times now. I think we'll stamp it 4 times. And what's great is I'm going to have to use my heat tool. That'll be pleasant. So let's use the Versamark. Again, use that Versamark, and I think that'll be okay then. We can put that text stamp back again just so it's on the sheet. And then we'll just sprinkle our embossing powder again. And I'm using a detailed white embossing powder. There's hardly anything in there. So I'm going to grab my heat tool. I can't wait. Just so I can heat myself up a little bit more. You know, with it being so cold outside, I thought I'll use a heat tool and it'll be nice and cold. So let's just heat our heat tool. So I'm just melting the embossing powder now. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time just to start going. Once it starts going, that's it. Make sure you move that card around so that you're not hitting the same area over and over again. Just keep moving it, just so that you heat different areas of your card. And once that gets going, it really speeds up a lot then. There we go. And what I like to do is just let that cool down a little bit. And then I'm going to get my Snippet stencil ticket. So we'll take the ticket. And I can place this wherever I wish now over that text. And I'm going to hold that down with a little touch of low tack tape. So you can keep sort of playing until you've got that in the area you want to have it. Because don't forget, it doesn't matter because we're going to cut the ticket out. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be straight because we're going to cut that out. So I'm just holding that down just so that it's secured down. Just makes it a little bit easier for me. Okay. So then I'm going to use some sprays, my favourite sprays, and I've got them in the shop. So I've got a couple of colours I love using. Salvage Patina. Let's get that ball bearing going. There you go. I like to shake them side to side. And the reason I like to do that is I don't like to shake them up and down because then you're not getting all the fluid coming out the top. Don't forget to clean the tops once you've finished spraying, just to get into good practices. Now, I like to have a piece of kitchen roll underneath just to catch any bloom. And what I mean by bloom is any spread of the sprays. So I do like to just put a little bit of kitchen roll down, just to catch the majority of the spray, to be honest. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to spritz with water. So I'm spritzing that area with water. And then I'm going to add some of my Salvage Patina, which is just a truly gorgeous colour. And then I'm going to take Villainous Potion. And what I'm going to do then is just add a little bit of water, just so it spreads a little bit. And obviously it's going to bleed under the stencil. It's very fluid. That's absolutely fine. And we've got all this ink round the outside as well. We can use that as well. And what you can do, if you want to get a little bit more marbling, is you can just add, take your lid and just sort of flick some of the Salvage Patina into the purple. and it marbles beautifully. Really marbles really nicely. And then you can do the same with the Villainous Potion. So you can take it. Obviously, we don't want to add with an H too much, but it marbles really nicely, and you can add a little bit more water if you wish, just so it marbles a little bit more. Now, I don't want to add any kitchen towel on the top of that because that's going to dilute everything that we've done. We want to keep that rich colour, and that embossing underneath will resist that ink, which is perfect. It resists that. And what I like to do is I just like to be mindful that I've just sprayed that, and I just give the lid a little bit of a clean. You can see you get a little bit, and it just keeps that clean. If you've got a little bit of mess in the lid, I would recommend you sort of clean that a little bit so it's not all over your lid. And then do the same with your blue. Just give it a clean. And really, it's really good if you can allow this to dry naturally, because as you can see, it's moving into each other and it really gives it a lovely effect. I haven't got that time, or else we'll be sitting here talking to each other and me waffling on about nothing. So what I'm going to do is just encourage it to dry a little bit quicker. But I don't want to dry this ink on here too much. So I'm just going to dry it a little bit before I lift the stencil up. So I'm keeping the heat tool moving because, one, I don't want to affect the embossing. I want it to still stay pure white, but I'm just moving this heat tool around a little bit. And I can see that it's already drying. Obviously, it's very humid in here. I mean, really humid. So let's lift this up. And what you can do is you can put, oh, sorry, just nudge the camera. What you can do is you can take all your messy bits and pieces, like your low tack tape, and you can just place that on the kitchen roll because you can get rid of it together. Now, don't worry about it all bleeding everywhere. That doesn't matter. But what you can do now is let's grab another scrap piece of card. Let's spritz that with water. And then we'll just place the stencil over the top, because then you can use this for another ticket. So you can mop up, it doesn't matter. You can even add a little bit more water so that it starts moving. And you've got your kitchen roll, so use that to get rid of any excess. Then you're not getting in too much of a mess. So let's just place these over here. I can place this kitchen roll over the top just to soak up any excess moisture. And if you're lucky, you may have made a second generation print. And as you can see, we've got a second generation print there that I could use because I can just cut round the outside. So you've got a second print there that you can stamp something into. So never waste those inks, because look how much ink is there. As you can see, even from the kitchen roll, you could have gone over just with a wipe and created another print as well. But you've got all your messy stuff now all in one piece of kitchen roll. You can then dry that up. You can dry your excess, just so you've got no excess ink on there. There we go. So we've got the basis of our ticket. So let's give that another little dry, just so that when we add a little bit more ink, we're not going to get sort of messy fingers. So we can take our stencil again. So let's bring in the stencil. Bring in our stencil, and it's up to you which way you put it. It has got the label on there. You can feel it. You can sort of highlight that with black ink, but it's got the name on there. It actually says it on there, engraved on. Now, as requested, I've also ordered some packs of brushes where you'll have 4 in the pack, 2 this size and 2, where's the Diddy one? If I can find the Diddy one. Of course, I can't find the Diddy one now. Oh, do you know, when you're looking for something, why is it never easy? Where's the really Diddy one? There you go. So I've actually ordered some brushes now where you'll get 4 in a pack. You'll get 2 of these and 2 of these in a pack, because I was asked if I could do some packs with just the small brushes. So those are on the way. Well, they're not on the way, they're being manufactured, just so that you know those are there. And that I do listen to your requests as well. I've still got the other brushes as well with the 5 in. The ones that are coming will only have 4 in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab, so you've got your colour here, which is Salvage Patina, and I'm going to take Salvage Patina Distress Oxide ink. So let's take the Salvage Patina Distress Oxide ink. And then I'm going to add some of that ink all the way around the outer edge. Now obviously it's not going to show up much where that deep purple is, but I'm still going to go around the edge and just add some of that colour. Now with it being a paler colour, you might want to just pick your ink pad up. Mine's very well used, so you may want to pick your ink pad up and just add a little bit more of that colour. Let's just go in a little bit more. Obviously you can keep your low tack tape on there if you wish. It's entirely up to you if you keep that on there. Just so you can see what I'm ending up with, just so I can see more of that ticket. And then I'm going to come in again, pick up that Salvage Patina and just add a little bit more towards the bottom here. Probably a lot easier to add some low tack tape rather than try to hold it like I'm doing. So I can see I've got my ticket. It's easy to see at the top there, but I don't really want to add any more of the purple because we've got enough of that. So just bring that ticket in again. I'm just going to add a little bit more. There we go. Just so I've got that lovely ticket shape. And then I can cut my ticket out. First of all, I can cut the straight lines first. Makes it so much easier. Obviously you can use your cutters, then you can get it perfectly straight and you're not mithering about it not being as straight as you would like, but you can use your cutters. There we go. See, I liked as well when you've got bits like this, because you can even use the bits that are left over. I like that bit. I love using little scraps. So let's just cut the corner bits out. There we go. So we've got our ticket now. And you've obviously got the blue ink on there again, which you could also add to another project. I just love these colours together. I think they are just beautiful together. I really do think they're beautiful. So I can even use this little bit if I want as a little bit of grounding, but we shall see. We can also now add a little bit of water to that. We can just flick some water on there. You don't think you're adding much until you suddenly see your non-stick craft sheet underneath and it's covered in splatters of water. It amazes me how much water just from flicking from your fingers. So we'll just grab a piece of kitchen roll because I chucked the other one away with all the rubbish in. And then we can just blot that. And you can see you do lift a little bit of colour just to add a few markings to the background. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful background. And you can still go in and you can still add more colour. You can still add water. And what you can do is you can just dab either with a piece of kitchen roll, just with a little bit of water, and you can just clean up your embossing just so that that pops a little bit more. But please don't go in with a soaking wet wipe. My wipes are almost dry, that's why I'm using them. There we go. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take the chicken from Nature Feeds the Soul. I love that sentiment. I was so chuffed with that. So let's just move this to one side. The problem with me is once I start creating, I can't stop. I love it. Right, so I'm going to take the chicken. Which one do I want now? You want that one. So let's take this chicken. We'll take our little chicken, and then we're going to take my Nocturne ink, and I've written it on the back. And the only reason I write black on the back is because I often leave my ink pads like that and I pick up the wrong ink pad. I can't remember. I always put the date on, but I forgot to write the black on. But yes, so I'm going to ink with my Nocturne ink, and I've always got Nocturne in stock. It's just my go-to ink pad, along with what's it, the other one called? Is it Morning Mist? Do you like how you can never remember? Anyway, the grey. So I'm just inking that up with plenty of ink, and then I'm going to stamp my little chicken just here, like so. Now, you're very well aware that I've got all these oxide layers on there. We're aware of that. So one, we haven't got an absorbent surface, which is what these are designed for. And two, we've got the oxide inks on there. So what we need to do is just give that a little bit of time just to absorb onto the surface. There we go. So you can see I always keep some fingers on there. I don't remove fingers so it wobbles. And you can see, just so you can see that. Can you see? You've got the ink. Now let's just give this a dry. And then we're just going to take our kitchen roll, and you're just going to just dab your card. So you're going to dab it just so that you lift a little bit. Can you see? Even though the permanent ink is there, it's only lifting the oxides, and you can see it sort of appears as if it's in the background rather than the black being in the foreground. It's as if it's in the background. You can see that as if that's in the background, which is what I want. So then I'm going to take the ink again. I wonder if we can do it with this one, or might need an older. So I often keep older ink pads. So let's grab my text again. So let's take the text from TE 45, and it doesn't matter that text will be backwards, it really doesn't matter. And this one, this ink pad is from 2024, April 2024. And just to show I don't get rid of them, there's no ink on there, just to show I don't get rid of them, that's from 2024. And I keep these inks because they're a little bit drier, they're not as soaking wet. And then I'm going to add the text stamp from TE 45, and I'm going to add that text to the chicken. And you can see it's removed some of the black ink, and I'm then going to stamp the chicken just onto my white card. There we go. And what you've got then is you've got the text on the chicken, so it gives it another little detail. So now I'm going to cut my chicken out. And if you're worried about cutting the feet out, sort of do it like, you know, so they look like they've got feet, but they don't, it doesn't have to be perfect. But I'm going to sort of cut the feet out first because I've got all the card in there. In other words, that I've not cut the chicken out, and then I'm trying to cut the feet out with, it's not really secure within the card. So I'm keeping the chicken to cut out last, because then it's secured in that card, and I'm not trying to cut those feet out when there's hardly any card on there. There we go. So I've got my little chicken, and I'm going to add this here because you can then see the chicken in the background. So I'm going to add this. Obviously I can add a little bit of grounding if I wish. Let me just, yes, I'm going to use a little bit of this. So this is just a spare piece. You saw me cut it out. You saw me cut that out. So let's, honestly, you're not going to get anybody that faffs more than I do, so I want that. So let's grab my adhesive. That's why I like little pieces of card, and I don't necessarily bin everything straight away. So I've got my little chicken in the background, then got this little chicken in the foreground. Just add you here like so, and it proves just in a small area you get quite a bit on there really. I don't need to put, I don't know why I'm trying to put that away. So let's just move these scissors. So at the moment you can see I've got the two chickens, and then I want one of the florals. So let's just move that out of the way. I'm then going to take, so let's put the little chicken back. And then I'm going to, it was this one. I knew I was thinking, which floral? I want to add this floral onto the card. So if it goes, yeah. So I'm going to add my little floral. There's so many, actually I could just add that. This is what I like about when you start playing with your stamps. So if I take this one actually, and remember to roll your stamps, don't pull them, roll them. Now I'm just going to use a little acrylic block because I only need this bit here. Let's move that out of the way. let's grab another scrap of card. So I'm using bits of card I've put aside, or they've got marks on. So I can then take my black Nocturne ink, and is this the very old one? No, that's 25, that's all right then. So I can take this floral, and it's designed so you can either cut it up or add to it, because there are bits you can add to it. So let's just take, I just want this little bit here, just to add the floral. And you can see, even when I'm doing it on white card, I'm still taking my time. And roll your stamp. Don't pull it off your acrylic block. Right, so I'm going to use this part, but I want to colour this. So let's grab our Inktense pencils. Or do I want my, I've used Inktense last time. I might use my, no, I'm going to use my Prismy. I used Inktense in the previous video. I do like to sort of mix it up a little bit. So we'll use the Prismy. So Prismy. Some of my Prisma pencils I do need to get. Let's bring this in. Always bring your card that you're using, just so that you've got, yes, that's lovely. So that's electric blue, and I want a purple. Let's have a drink of water because I'm boiling. Right, I'm sure you'll forgive me for drinking water with it being so hot. I then want a purple. So let's have a look. Oh yes, that's nice. So we've got those two colours, and we want something a little bit darker just to give depth. So we'll have black cherry. Colours that I use quite frequently. And now Tracy puts the glass on her face because it's so hot. Especially not having my fan because I've given it my little fur baby. So I'm now going to use, this one's sharpened enough, Black Cherry PC1078. So I'm going to use the Black Cherry, and I'm just using this one floral on its own. So I'm just using the Black Cherry and just adding a little bit of the Black Cherry. I'm then going to go to the Parma Violet 1008. It really needs sharpening because I do like to use sharper pencils. And with this one, I'm going into the darker colour. Now my blue, there's no way I'm going to get away with that. It needs sharpening. So I'm just sharpening the electric blue. There we go, and trust me, I've sharpened it. Look at that, it's a bit too much of a point, but there you go. So I'm going to come in with the electric blue and come in to the purples. And you can see how lightly I'm adding the layers of colour. Mainly because, as I always say, if you come in too heavy, there's nowhere to go. You break down that card too quickly. And then we can add some touches of white afterwards. So I'm going to come in a little bit more with the Black Cherry 1078 and just add a little bit more of that colour. Then we'll come in with our Parma Violet, a little bit more of that colour, and we create more depth just with that. And then we can come in with our electric blue. Don't ask me why I've started with this petal. No reason. And what I'm doing is I'm building that layer of colour up. I must say I do like this floral. I love it. Really love this floral. Let's give that. There we go. So gradually building the colour up. Pew. It's not pleasant, this humidity, is it? Whew. Right, especially being a redhead, it's worse than heavy. So let's just add another layer of our colour. And when we add the white to the centre of our floral, that dark colour will really pop. Now, if you don't like using pencils, don't worry. Why don't you colour with your oxide sprays? That's absolutely fine. You can colour with those. Just add a little bit to a palette. Just by taking the nozzle out, just add a little bit to a palette and you can colour that way. And don't worry if you haven't got the pencils. So I'm just coming in now, making the blue a little bit deeper. Just to bring another layer of that colour in. And if you want to add yet another layer and you haven't pressed too hard, you can do that. I personally would say let the card just rest a little bit. That's sometimes a good idea. I'm just going to add a little bit of one purple and a little bit of the blue to the bud. And what we'll do is we'll cut this out. So I just want this bit here. I'm going to leave a little tiny bit of a white border, not much. Just cut around this. I'm using my Pergamano scissors, mainly because we all get into routines, don't we? And I've used Pergamano scissors over 20 years. Mainly because I used to use them when I had my shop, because I found it really easy to cut out detailed areas, even though the Pergamano scissors are designed exactly for Pergamano because they come right to the point, the sharp right to that point, and they cut right to the point. But for me, they work really well just to cut out and do my fussy cutting. It works really well for me. So as always, I like to turn the card rather than actually turning my hand because I can't get into those many positions. It's far easier turning the card than trying to turn your hand. Now, if you can, try and keep your hand away from your ink, especially with the humidity that we've got at the moment, because you're just going to create a smudgy mess. I mean, mine should be dry, but just giving you that warning because it is very humid. There we go. Let's just cut that. There we go. So now I've got a smaller floral. It just makes the floral that, as you can see it here, let's bring this in. The tall floral, you can cut it up, you can add more to it because the florals are here. So it's great because you can cut it up and make it smaller if you wish. So then I'm going to take my Posca pen. Now what you have to remember, excuse me, with your Posca pen is when you're using it with your Prismacolor, it's going to pick up some of that waxy layer. So what you need to remember to do is just give your Posca pen a little bit of a clean. Just clean it off so that you get rid of that waxy layer. Nothing major. Let's add a little bit of white down here. There we go. So then I can add my floral. There we go. I can just add my floral here. Again, I can go in with some more white. So let's add this. So take the floral. We can add this to our project. And now I've still got the little chicken in the background and in the foreground as well. You can also sort of add a few little touches of white if you wish. Just to go around. I'm just going around a little bit with that white. And the white will be a little bit duller because you have that Distress Oxide spray. So just remember that. If you want something a little bit brighter, what you need, hang on, is your bleed proof white. Now I did buy lots of thin brushes. As you can see here, I bought a lot of brushes that you can see I've not even opened it. Fine. This is a 0 and it is, I'm sure this is one of the, just the very fine brushes that comes to a point. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water just to, so you can use your bleed proof, which is quite solid. So I can just bring a little bit out. And I'm just going to sort of take some of the thickness off. There we go. And if you want, you can come in with this. And this, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It is bleed proof. So because it's bleed proof, it won't take on any of that oxide colour. It will stay white. So it works perfectly. And what you can do then is we can add a little bit more. That's going to last me decades, that is. You can use a little bit more water, and it doesn't matter that it's diluted. You can then add a few of your splatters with this bleed proof or your Posca pen. If you're going to use your Posca pen, don't forget to just dry that a little bit, just so that you can add layers of the Posca, because the Posca will pick the colour up from your oxide sprays. That's what it is. The minute there's some moisture on there, the moisture will react with the oxide sprays. But what you do need to remember to do is clean your brushes. So don't allow your brushes to have all that paint in without giving them a clean. You can also use gesso if you wish. Gesso splatters nicely as well. So just clean that area. And yes, it's taken me a bit longer, mainly because of the humidity and nothing else, to be fair. I can now add my ticket here. So let's add our ticket. And it's up to you. You can add 3 tickets because we've got the smaller tickets and larger tickets, because we've got this ticket and we've got ST4 with all the tickets on. Have I got that here? So we've got the ST4, which is the batch one, which got lots of tickets on there. So you can add other tickets as well. So it's entirely up to you. But I love the fact that we can keep these in the book and they work really nicely. So then I can go back to TE48 and I can use the little chickens. let's take that little chicken. Now, because I've done this afterwards, I need to make sure where the acrylic block is going. How can you lose an acrylic block? You've had 2 seconds before. There it is. So I need to put this here, right at the edge, just so that... Are you facing the right way? Oh yeah, you are. It's like I have to question myself whether my chickens are facing the right way. There we go. So with my black ink, I can just add my little chicken. Not that I'm obsessed with chickens or birds or anything, but I just love them. There we go. Just give your hands a wipe if like me, you've sort of used that stamp. So let's just add that here, and let's add a little bit of shading around the edge here. We'll pick our normal brush. Which one do I use normally? Do you like how you get stuck in a rut and you have to use the same brushes? I think it's hilarious. I've got hundreds of brushes now, but I have to use different ones. That's got yellow in it. We definitely don't want that, do we? Is that clear? I don't think it's yellow, actually. I think it's brown. Let's just add a little bit of shading. Just add a little bit of shading there. There we go. And it's lovely because even a small piece of art, I do like to sort of finish it off properly. So I'm going to use the little bit of text from TE45 that we've been using. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of that salvage patina. Let's see if that shows up enough for us. Very pale, so shall we add a little bit of purple? So let's grab a little bit of wilted violet. I'll lift this up so you can see even the pale stamping I've added. There we go. I'll lift this up. Don't forget to give that stamp a little bit of a clean, just so you can see there is the pale blue. Can you see it here as well, with a little bit of the purple? And then I want to add a word. Don't ask me what yet. Let me see if I can put that on there. So you need it there. That's it. So I'm now going to ink this up in black, and I've always got the date on there, so I know because I've got the other black ink pad on my desk as well. So I'm just making sure I use the correct one. So I've done this wrong. Needs to be there. Don't stretch your stamps. There we go. And because I've just touched the stamps a little bit, I'll just make sure my hands are clean. Nature feeds the soul. Let's add that there. Oh, and I've completely... So say you do something like this. I've put nature feeds the, and I've missed soul. Not a problem. So I'll just take my... Is it big enough for that? So what I'll do is I'll make a feature out of it. So take the black. She says checking. So grab that word soul. And we'll add it to a piece of this cutout card, as if it's a design feature. So we've got sole there. Then we'll just cut this out. Excuse my arm. Don't always panic when something doesn't quite go as planned. So let's cut that out. There you go. So I've now got the word sole, but it looks more like a design feature because I've got a little bit of the colour on there from the background. So if I place that here, I now look like I've got a little bit of a design feature. I'll lift this up so you can see. So make sure that's straight, because that, there we go. Just so you can see, we've got nature feeds the sole, but this now looks like I've done a design feature because it's got a bit of colour on there from the background. So it looks like it's all considered. So don't panic. Let's just put the lid on here. I'm absolutely loving this because every time I go to it, it works. No blockages, as long as I clean the tip. It's just wonderful. Right, so then I'm going to take my Posca pen, my smaller Posca pen, and I'm just going to add a few of my trusty Posca splatters. Just because I can't help myself, I love doing it. There we go. And then we've got our next ticketed snippet. Just absolutely love it. And I love doing them. They're just great fun and I love them. It means you also use some of those smaller elements in a different way as well, but you also can bring in the bigger elements. They don't have to be on bigger project. Just love those. So I hope you enjoyed that. I know it took me a little bit longer. It's the heat. So I hope you enjoyed that and you'll give it a go. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.